We start with our Newsmaker segment and talk about one of the mainstays of the Kansas City civic and cultural scene, the National World War I Museum at the Liberty Memorial. The facility, now open for about a decade, is planning a major $6 million expansion. World War I, fought in the early 20th century, remains rich with implications for the 21st. Joining me to talk about the war and the museum is its president and CEO, Matt Naylor. Matt, welcome to Ruckus. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm a big fan of the museum. I've been there on several occasions, and every time I go there, I can't help but react to the introductory video that sets the stage in the world just before the war breaks out. And I always think if you change the names of a couple of countries or so, it sounds a lot like the world we're living in today.
Yeah, there are many parallels to the world in which we live now. In fact, some would say that the world is more like the world of 1913 today than it ever has been in the past 100 years.
Well, and that's the reason we study history, to learn about the future from the past.
That's right. Well, it's been said that the history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes.
Yeah. Talking about the display at the beginning of one's visit to the museum, at the end of the war, Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, and other world leaders got together and redid the map. Erased lines, drew new boundaries, created new countries, got rid of other countries. And those changes really affect the way we live today and some of the crises that we see today, especially in the Middle East.
Yeah, the making of the modern Middle East really began in 1916 with the Sykes-Picot Agreement. There were the spoils of war were beginning to be divvied up even before the war was over. And you're right to say that we continue to experience that today. So the enduring impact of the war cannot be underestimated.
Well, anybody who's taken a history class will be familiar with the cliche, one of the major causes of World War II was World War I.
Yeah, we have a fantastic cadre of more than 300 volunteers, and some of those, when you come to the museum, will ask a visitor, when did the war start? And 1914, when did it end? And they like to say 1945, because World War II really can be seen to be an extension of many of the unresolved issues.
Well, it was called the Great War, not because it was so good, but because it was so big.
Right.
And the war to end all wars, which of course it did not. But it was a very brutal war, and one of the most brutal aspects is on display at the World War I Museum, and that is trench warfare.
Yes, this is a time where the development of technologies intersects them with humanity's brutality, and so the scale of war is so extreme. So in that trench warfare, then we find these new technologies being utilised. Gas was used for the first time. Tanks were developed and used for the first time. The artilleries that were then developed. It's said that if the rate at which armaments or artillery shells are being collected in the fields of France today continues at the same rate, it will take 500 years for all of those armaments to be collected, a third of which have not exploded.
Oh, before we run out of time, I want you to talk about the big expansion plans at the World War I Museum. What does it involve? Where did the money come from?
So we take pride of place being designated by Congress as the nation's World War I Memorial. There is not one on the Washington Mall, and the nation's museum. And so we're, I think Kansas City is very proud to have that title. We want to have a travelling exhibition gallery. So within the envelope of the space, we will be building a new gallery, which will enable us to bring to Kansas City, and sometimes the United States, exhibits that would otherwise not be here, to engage the community in conversations about World War I and its enduring impact. In 1919, the people of Kansas City gathered together and raised $2.5 million in about 2 weeks, equivalent today of $40 million. Again, in the late 80s, early 90s, when there was some deferred maintenance issues that need to be dealt with the memorial, more than $100 million was raised locally. And then the memorial restored in this beautiful museum, then which opened in 06, 10 years ago, as you said. And again, the people of Kansas City have rallied around, and with the support of some of the key family foundations, key businesses, we're so grateful now that we're able to do this expansion, including some outdoor improvements, to even better fulfill our mission as the nation's museum and memorial dedicated to interpreting, understanding, and remembering.
Well, I hope we've encouraged a lot of people to go go there if they've not been, or to go back? There's always something new to learn. Where is the information about it available?
Theworldwar.org is the best place to go. We have outstanding exhibits opening in the next several months as we begin the commemoration of the 100 years of the U.S. entry into World War I.
Great. Thank you very much for coming in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that is Matt Naylor with the National World War I Museum in Kansas City. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus.